She was just trying to get home. A quiet evening at the train station turned into every parent's nightmare. Tied up, terrified, pushed toward death by the very people meant to protect her. But what those racist cops didn't know, her father wasn't just any man. He was an army chief colonel trained for war. And when he found out what they did to his daughter, what came next would shake the entire system.
Before we dive in, tell me where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below, and if you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel for more powerful true stories like this one.
The sun had just dipped behind the skyline of Montgomery, Alabama. Crimson shadows stretched across the old train station platform as 16-year-old Arielle Carter clutched her school bag tighter. Her boots echoed against the worn concrete as she walked briskly, eyes scanning the platform for the next train home. She'd stayed late for chemistry tutoring and missed her usual ride. The area was quieter than usual, almost eerily so. Arielle adjusted her hoodie over her afro-puffed curls and moved toward the bench. That's when she heard the crunch of boots. Two uniformed officers appeared from the shadows, both white men. The taller one had sunburnt skin and squinted through small eyes. The shorter one chewed gum, his badge glinting in the station lights. "Hey, you!" the taller one barked. "What are you doing here this late?" Arielle turned, blinking. "Just waiting for the 8:15 train, sir." He stepped closer. "Got ID?" "I do. In my bag." As she reached in, the shorter officer yanked it from her hands. "Easy now," he sneered. "You people always have stories." "What do you mean, you people?" Arielle asked, voice trembling. The taller cop's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist hard. "Smart mouth, huh? Come with us." "Why?" she stammered. "I didn't do anything." "Loitering, suspicious behavior, could be gang-related." His words were a lie, a trap, and he knew it. Arielle resisted. "I just want to go home, please." But it was no use. They shoved her toward the empty side platform, where no passengers waited. Her phone slipped from her pocket and cracked on the ground. "Hey, that's my phone," she cried. The shorter one stomped on it. "Crushed. Useless now. Nobody's calling for help tonight." He grinned. They pulled out zip ties and bound her hands roughly behind her back. Panic exploded in her chest. She kicked, screamed, begged. But the wind howled louder than her voice. "Let me go! You can't do this!" The taller one chuckled darkly. "Watch us." Suddenly, a loud blaring sound approached from the east. The distant whistle of the 8:15 train. A deep rumble followed, vibrating through the steel tracks. The shorter cop looked at his partner and smirked. "Think she'll learn her lesson?" Arielle's eyes widened. "No. Please, no." They dragged her closer to the edge of the platform, right where the yellow warning line faded into the dark gravel. "Time for a little scare. Maybe next time you'll think twice about disrespecting the law," the taller one said coldly. Arielle's legs buckled. She collapsed, sobbing, dirt smeared on her face. Her knees scraped the concrete as she struggled against the zip ties. "You're going to kill me," she cried. The train's lights were growing larger now, closer, louder, but the cops didn't stop. They crouched beside her, gripping her by the arms. "Let her hear the steel, feel the fear," the shorter one whispered. "They only listen when they're terrified." Arielle screamed. Her voice cracked. Her throat burned. She looked around, but no one was there. No conductor in sight. No passengers. Just cold indifference and speeding death. That's when a flash of light broke through the air. A car, no, a jeep came tearing into the station parking lot. Tires squealed. Doors slammed. And a voice thundered from the shadows. "Step away from my daughter." The words cut like a blade. The cops froze. The taller one reached for his belt. The shorter one stood up. From the darkness emerged a towering figure in full military uniform. The rank on his chest shimmered under the platform lights. Colonel Nathaniel Carter, decorated, feared, a strategist of war, and a father. He marched forward like a battlefield general. Behind him, two military police officers flanked his sides, their presence sharp and cold. "Unhand her. Now," he growled, but the cops hesitated. The train was seconds away now. Colonel Carter didn't wait. He surged forward, a blur of trained motion. One swift punch knocked the taller cop to the ground, teeth clattering like dice on concrete. The other reached for his taser. But before he could pull the trigger, a boot met his stomach, hard. He crashed into a bench, groaning in pain. "Cut the ties," Carter barked at his officers. One MP pulled a combat knife and sliced the restraints from Arielle's wrists. She collapsed into her father's arms, gasping for air. "Dad, they tried to kill me." "I know, baby," he whispered, voice tight with fury. "You're safe now." The train thundered past behind them, just seconds away from where her body would have been. The platform lights flickered. The two officers groaned on the ground, disoriented. Sirens now echoed in the distance. Local authorities, too late to save, just in time to explain. Colonel Carter's jaw clenched. His eyes didn't blink. He didn't move from where he knelt, holding his daughter close. He wasn't just a father now. He was a storm coming for justice. Colonel Nathaniel Carter stood like a mountain at the center of chaos. The sirens blared louder now. Red and blue lights spun wildly across the station walls as city police cruisers skidded into the lot. Officers poured out with hands on weapons, only to halt when they saw who was standing there. A U.S. Army colonel in full regalia, and two of their own cuffed and writhing on the concrete like common criminals. The first officer on scene, a heavyset lieutenant named Grayson, approached cautiously. "Colonel Carter?" he asked, squinting at the stars and stripes on the man's chest. Carter turned, slowly, with Ariel still in his arms. His voice was steel. "Your men were seconds away from murdering my daughter." Grayson's face paled. "Sir, I want internal affairs. I want body cams. I want backup units with clean records. And I want every camera in this station secured. Now." "Yes, sir," Grayson stammered, snapping to attention. Ariel was trembling as she leaned into her father's shoulder. Her wrists were red, bruised, skin broken. Her knees bled from the rough concrete. Her hoodie was ripped at the shoulder. Her face pure fear and exhaustion. The medics arrived next. They placed her on a stretcher, but she never let go of her father's hand. Her lips trembled. "Don't let them get away with this." "I won't," Carter said, his gaze cold and locked on the two beaten cops. The taller officer, blood pooling from his mouth, tried to speak. It was a misunderstanding. Carter stepped forward and knelt beside him. "You think binding a teenage girl and dragging her toward a train is a misunderstanding?" His voice was a whisper, but more terrifying than a scream. The cop looked away, shame and fear painted on his face. Carter turned to the military police beside him. "Confiscate their weapons. Detain them until federal authorities arrive. This is no longer local." One of the MPs nodded and began removing the officers' belts and radios. Then came the flashlights, media crews arriving like vultures. Cameras clicked. Reporters shoved mics through the crowd. "Colonel Carter, is it true your daughter was nearly pushed in front of a train? Is this another case of police brutality? Are you pressing charges?" Carter ignored them all. But Ariel, even on the stretcher, raised her head. "Tell them," she said. "Tell them what they did." Carter stepped into the media circle. "This evening, my daughter, an honors student and a U.S. citizen, was falsely accused, physically restrained, and nearly murdered by two officers who swore to protect this city. If I hadn't arrived in time, she'd be dead." Gasps rippled through the reporters. "And let me be very clear," Carter continued, his voice calm but commanding. "This was no accident. This was racial profiling. This was targeted violence. And this was attempted murder." One of the cameras zoomed in, broadcasting his words live across the nation. "I am not just a soldier. I am a father. And no badge, no uniform, no institution will shield those men from the consequences they've earned." By morning, his statement would be on every news channel in America. Later that night, Ariel was in a private hospital suite under federal protection. Her vitals were stable, but her heart still pounded at every creak of the hallway door. Carter sat beside her bed, rubbing her fingers gently. "Do you want to talk?" "No," she whispered. Just stay." He did. But even while holding her hand, his other hand was on the phone, calling generals, calling DC, calling military lawyers. The machine had begun to move. Across town, the two officers sat cuffed in an interrogation room. Their uniforms had been stripped. No phones, no lawyers, just a cold metal table, and the silent glare of an IA agent who took notes without blinking. The taller one finally broke. "We didn't mean to kill her," he shouted. "We were just trying to scare her. That's what they told us to do." The agent looked up. The man hesitated, then nodded. "There's a list. There's a group. They think they're cleansing the city. They told us to follow the script. Watch for certain people. Push them around. Make an example." The shorter one spat. "Shut up, man." But it was too late. A second recorder had already picked up the admission. The next day, a closed-door briefing was held at Fort Langston Military Base. A special task force assembled. Intel officers, FBI liaisons, JOAG lawyers, and federal agents. Carter entered the room and tossed a file on the table. "This is not isolated," he said. "This is a network hiding under badges, a domestic terror ring built into law enforcement. And now it's my war." He flipped open the folder. Photos of others. Minorities beaten, arrested under false charges. Some vanished. One photo showed a girl barely 13, bloodied at a bus stop. "We start with this city," Carter said, "but we don't stop until every one of them is exposed." A young analyst raised her hand. "What do we call this mission, sir?" Carter stared at the wall, where Ariel's face smiled back from a school award photo. Then he spoke. Operation Redemption. At 0700 hours the next morning, Operation Redemption launched from an underground war room built deep into Fort Langston. No reporters, no fanfare, just silence, steel, and resolve. Colonel Nathaniel Carter stood at the head of a digital command board as data streamed across multiple screens, officer names, incident logs, body cam footage, timestamps, and flagged internal emails. Red dots marked departments across the country suspected of enabling the hate-fueled system hiding in plain sight. Beside him stood Special Agent Diana Reese from the FBI's Civil Rights Division. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, braided ponytail, blazer over body armor. She'd seen decades of injustice. This was personal for her too. "We're going in hard," she said, arms crossed. "No leaks, no hesitation. We make one mistake, they scatter underground." "We don't make mistakes," Carter replied. "This time they won't see us coming." They'd already identified 3 primary cities outside Montgomery where similar police incidents had occurred: Atlanta, Baton Rouge, and Kansas City. Each had officers flagged in secret complaint files that mysteriously vanished after submission. Ariel's assault had cracked the system wide open. The whistleblower cop, now in custody, had confessed to meetings held under the guise of Blue Brotherhood Night, where rogue officers shared tactics on harassment, restraint, and psychological warfare. But the worst revelation? They were being funded. Private donors, dark money, even members of city boards. Carter slammed his fist on the table. Every one of them will answer. Meanwhile, across town, local news spun the incident to their advantage. Footage showed Ariel's bruised wrists, her muffled screams, the close-up of the train's wheels as they sped by. Social media exploded. Justice for Ariel trended globally. Civil rights groups rallied. Petitions soared past 2 million signatures within 12 hours. But the streets weren't quiet. That afternoon, at Montgomery Central High, dozens of students walked out. Black, white, Latino, Asian, united, holding signs that read, "We are Ariel." Others chanted, "Protect our kids. Stop the hate." Ariel watched the broadcast from her hospital bed, tears streaming silently. For the first time in 2 days, she smiled. But behind her father's eyes, there was still a storm building. That night, the first strike hit. Operation Redemption launched a coordinated sweep of 3 precincts. Carter led the raid in Montgomery personally, suited in body armor, his badge shining beside his military ID. Federal marshals swarmed the 9th District station with battering rams and flashlights. The desk sergeant looked up and froze. "Colonel Carter?" Carter didn't answer. He moved with precision. "Rooms 4, 6, and records. Now," he barked. MPs moved through the building like shadows, seizing laptops, boxes, even shredders still warm from use. Agents yanked hidden folders from beneath floorboards, lists of traffic stops, maps with circles, and notes scribbled with slurs. "Take everything," Carter ordered, "and no one leaves." In the basement, they found a black room with a chalkboard wall titled "Clean Zones." Under it, a list of neighborhoods marked safe and others marked to be monitored. There was even a picture of Ariel pinned beside a list of watch targets: Tier 1 youth. Carter's hand trembled as he tore the photo off the wall. That was all he needed. In Kansas City, Agent Reese led a similar sweep. She walked straight into the station's evidence room and froze. There, stacked in boxes, were over 70 unopened civil complaints. "They never even opened them," she muttered. One officer tried to intervene. "Ma'am, you need to leave." Reese cut him off with a raised badge. "This is now a federal crime scene. You need a lawyer." By dawn, 23 officers were in custody nationwide. 3 city officials had resigned. One had attempted to flee to Mexico before being intercepted at the airport. The media didn't sleep. Colonel Carter's face was now plastered across news stations. Part hero, part warrior, part father. Pundits argued. Citizens debated. But the people knew the truth. One black girl, tied and nearly killed, had shaken the foundation of American policing. But darkness doesn't die quietly. Inside a dimly lit warehouse on the edge of Montgomery, a meeting was taking place. A dozen off-duty officers sat around a table, all wearing plain clothes, all angry. "They're coming for us. Carter's got the feds now. We can't just sit here. We need to make an example." Then from the shadows a deep voice spoke. "We already have a plan." A figure stepped forward, bald, scar across his temple, a retired police captain named Reed Sutton. "We'll hit him where it hurts." A man leaned forward. "You talking about the girl?" Sutton nodded slowly. "No more second chances. This time she doesn't make it out alive." Back at the hospital, Carter couldn't sleep. He sat by Ariel's bed with a tablet in hand, reviewing surveillance footage from the last sweep. Every minute mattered. Every image had to be analyzed. Then his phone buzzed. A message from an encrypted number. "They're not done. Watch your daughter." Carter's body tensed. He rose, checked the hallway, waved in 2 armed MPs. "Double her security," he said sharply. "Nobody enters this floor unless I say so." As they nodded and moved out, Carter stared at the message again. He knew what this meant. They were cornered, and that made them more dangerous than ever. This wasn't over. This was only the middle of the war. The morning sun rose over Montgomery like a warning. Heat waves shimmered over rooftops. But inside St. Matthew's Private Hospital, the chill of danger was sharper than ever. Colonel Nathaniel Carter hadn't slept. He stood near the window of Ariel's room, staring through half-closed blinds, his body stiff and alert. His daughter lay asleep, wrapped in pale blue sheets, an oxygen monitor quietly blinking beside her. 2 armed military police stood outside her door. A third patrolled the hallway. Another guarded the stairwell. But Carter knew better. Evil didn't always knock. He tapped his phone, sending a secured signal to a private surveillance van parked near the loading dock. Inside, Special Agent Diana Reese and her tech team scanned every camera feed, tracking movement, scanning facial recognition tags. Their eyes were everywhere. "Colonel," Reese said through the comm, "we've got eyes on a suspicious vehicle circling the building. Unmarked, tinted, no plates." Carter didn't hesitate. "Tag it. Intercept if it slows," Reese replied, already on it. But across town, in a moldy motel room lit by a single flickering bulb, Reed Sutton paced like a caged animal. Beside him sat 3 masked men in plain black hoodies. One loaded a pistol, another checked a small device, C4 explosives. "This is war," Sutton growled. "They turned us into villains, now we make them fear us." He held up a folded map of the hospital floor plan. "We hit the south entrance. Security's lighter. Carter's distracted with feds and files. We go in fast, silent, and leave no survivors." One man chuckled, including the girl, especially the girl. By noon, the vehicle outside the hospital disappeared, only to reappear 20 minutes later, this time in the parking garage beneath the hospital. Agent Reese sat upright. They're inside, moving toward freight elevator. Carter's heart slammed against his ribs. "Lock down the floor. No one moves without clearance." The guards outside Ariel's door went full alert, weapons ready, ears pinned to the comms. Reese patched in video from the parking garage. 3 men, hoods up, walking in triangle formation. One carried a duffel bag suspiciously heavy. Another held what looked like a hospital ID badge, stolen, likely from the late shift nurse who never showed up this morning. "They've studied our pattern," Reese muttered. "They're mimicking civilian routes." Carter grabbed his sidearm and motioned to his detail. "We end this now." Meanwhile, Ariel stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. She blinked against the bright ceiling lights. Her body was sore, her mind foggy. She reached for her water bottle and noticed the red light blinking under the TV. A tiny blinking light. Her heart skipped. That hadn't been there before. Suddenly, her instincts screamed. She pulled the sheets aside, slid quietly off the bed and crawled toward the door. Her hands trembled. She didn't know if it was fear or adrenaline, but she remembered what her father had always taught her. When you feel danger, don't freeze, move, and so she moved. She opened the drawer, found the emergency panic button, pressed it. Downstairs, alarms blared. Red lights washed over the sterile hallways. Motion detected on sub-level 2. "Unauthorized entry," shouted a guard. Carter and Reese moved fast. Flanked by armed guards, they descended the stairwell instead of taking the elevator, avoiding the ambush route Sutton's team was planning. In the sub-level corridor, they found the nurse's body slumped behind a garbage bin. Her ID was gone. Her eyes were open in horror. Reese whispered, "They're here." And just then, boom, a flashbang exploded on the 3rd floor, the floor where Ariel's room was. Carter's ears rang, his vision blurred, but his focus returned like a knife to the chest. Ariel, on the 3rd floor, chaos erupted, smoke filled the hall. 2 MPs were down, groaning, dazed by the blast. One attacker dragged Ariel's empty bed down the hallway, clearly fooled by the decoy body hidden under a blanket. But Ariel wasn't in it. She had hidden behind the oxygen tanks, using shadows and chaos as her shield. She waited until the man passed, then slipped into the janitor's closet and locked it silently. Inside, she grabbed a mop handle and crouched low, her breath shallow. "I am my father's daughter," she whispered to herself. "I will not go down easy." Carter reached the floor seconds later. Through the smoke and blinking lights, he spotted a man dragging the decoy bed. "Wrong room," Carter growled. The man turned, gun raised. Too slow. Carter fired once. Center mass. The man dropped. Another hooded attacker burst from the next hallway, shouting into a radio, "Abort! She's gone!" He turned to run, straight into Agent Reese, who cracked the butt of her pistol against his skull. He collapsed instantly. "Clear this wing," Carter ordered, room by room. From the closet, Ariel heard the voices, her father's voice. She unlocked the door and stepped out, holding the mop like a spear. "Daddy," she cried. He turned. Relief rushed over his face as he ran to her, pulling her into a fierce hug. "I told you not to let them in," he whispered. "I didn't," she replied, voice shaking. "They tried, but I'm still here." Reese joined them, gun still drawn. "We got 2 of them. Third one fled. The leader, Sutton, isn't among them." Carter stood, anger rolling through him like thunder. "Then we hunt him down." Static filled the screen. He cursed and slammed the device onto the floor. They were ready for us. He grabbed a duffel bag stuffed with cash, IDs, and forged passports. He wasn't done. Not yet. "They think it's over." He turned to a wall covered in photos. Carter, Ariel, Reese, even a school picture of Ariel when she was 9. "No," he hissed. "It's only just begun." 3 days had passed since the hospital attack. Ariel was now under federal protection in an undisclosed location surrounded by round-the-clock surveillance, drones circling above, and a hand-picked team of elite military personnel. Yet despite the high security, Colonel Nathaniel Carter knew something dangerous was still slithering in the dark. Sutton hadn't been captured, and as long as that man was out there, nothing felt finished. Inside the mobile command unit, Agent Reese traced red lines across a digital map. "He's ghosted every camera," she said, "but we have chatter. He's making a run toward the Florida state line. We intercepted burner phone traffic. He's trying to flee the country." Carter cracked his knuckles and narrowed his eyes. "Then we intercept him before he crosses." "What's the play?" Reese asked. "We bait him." Reese's brow lifted. "Using Ariel?" "No," Carter said. "Using me." That night, Carter stood alone in front of an old train depot outside Tallahassee. No military backup, no federal agents visible, just him, and a message sent straight to Sutton's private channel. "No more running. Face me man to man. You want a war? Let's end it." Same place where it started, on the tracks. Sutton couldn't resist. The man had lost everything. His crew arrested or dead, his network exposed, his future crumbling like ash. But his hate burned brighter than logic. So he came. Just past 11 p.m., headlights sliced through the humid Florida air. An old black truck rolled up beside the station. Sutton stepped out, gun in hand, a sneer on his scarred face. "Well, well," he said, walking forward. "The great Colonel Carter, standing here all alone. No camera crews, no army, just you and me." "That's all it takes," Carter replied, calm and still. "You made it personal." "I made it justice," Sutton spat. "You think you're some hero. You raised a brat who disrespected the law. We were cleaning the streets. You were spilling innocent blood. I was preserving order. You were building a cult," Carter snapped. "And I'm here to end it." Sutton raised his weapon. "You won't live to see it." But before he could pull the trigger, flash, spotlights exploded from all sides. Dozens of armed feds, snipers, and military units emerged from the shadows. Agent Reese stepped into the light, bullhorn in hand. "Read Sutton. You are surrounded. Drop your weapon. Now." Sutton froze, blinking. "You lied." "No," Carter said, stepping closer. "I strategized." Sutton's face twisted in rage. He aimed at Carter, finger tightening on the trigger. Crack! A sniper's shot rang out. Sutton's arm jolted back, weapon flying from his hand as he collapsed to the ground, howling in pain. Agents swarmed in. Shackles clamped on his wrists. His hate had finally met the weight of justice. 3 months later, in a packed federal courtroom, Sutton sat in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, face pale and defeated. The jury read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. A wave of cheers erupted outside the courthouse. Justice had a name now, a story, a symbol, and her name was Ariel. She stood beside her father on the courthouse steps, holding his hand as reporters rushed forward. "Do you feel safe now?" one asked her. Ariel smiled, strong and unbroken. "I feel stronger, and I feel seen." Later that week, Congress passed the Carter Justice Reform Act, banning unauthorized civilian restraints by law enforcement and enforcing harsher penalties for racially motivated abuse of power. Colonel Carter returned to base but declined all promotion offers. Instead, he spent his evenings with Ariel, walking, laughing, healing. And as they sat on the same train platform one quiet evening, she turned to him. "Dad, thank you for saving my life." He looked at her with warmth and quiet fire in his eyes. "No, Ariel," he said. "You saved us all.